Shalom family. So let's talk hostage deal because that's going down right now and it is huge news. So there's quite a few articles I want to cover that really just give you the whole gist of it. The first one, hostages to be released shortly in epic deal, says Trump. The US President-elect said his team will continue to work closely with Israel and our allies to make sure Gaza never again becomes a terrorist safe haven. This epic ceasefire agreement could only have happened as a result of our historic victory in November, as a signal to the entire world my administration would seek peace and negotiate deals to ensure the safety of all Americans and our allies. I am thrilled American and Israeli hostages will be returning home to be reunited with their families and loved ones. And then he just carries on talking about this amazing epic deal. So Trump obviously taking credit for the whole deal and pulling the whole thing off. Biden can't really say much. He's very much absent at this stage of the game as he ends out his presidency. Then the other articles get even more interesting. Israeli cabinet approves Gaza ceasefire hostage release deal. On Friday, the Israeli Prime Minister's office released a statement indicating that after a thorough evaluation of the various political, security, and humanitarian dimensions involved, and recognizing the proposed deal aligns with the strategic objectives of the ongoing war, the Ministerial Committee for National Security Affairs, known as the Political Security Cabinet, has recommended the government endorse the suggested framework. The statement further mentioned a government meeting would be convened later the same day to discuss all matters pertaining to this. The agreement, which was initially unveiled earlier in the week, stipulates that Hamas will release 33 hostages over the course of 6 weeks. 33. Interesting number, especially when you think about the number in line of the enemy's thinking. 33-degree Freemasons and things like that. So 33 is interesting. And 33 has got biblical connections too, as you know. In exchange, Israel is expected to release hundreds of Palestinians who are imprisoned, a significant number of whom are incarcerated for terrorist offenses and related crimes. So in exchange for 33 human beings, you will give us hundreds of known terrorists out of prison. How is that a valid deal? How does that make sense? Are you saying the value of an Israeli life is so much higher that it's worth hundreds of Palestinian lives? Because that's what they're saying indirectly as well. But all those terrorists released, those same kind of people that started this problem in the first place, in exchange for 33 people, I don't see the merit in that. You're creating a bigger problem after all the fighting and bloodshed already. You're now re-releasing them back into the wild to start the whole problem all over again. Prime Minister's office says first Gaza hostages expected to be released Sunday, today, as planned despite bureaucratic delays. According to the PMO, once the ceasefire deal is approved by both Security Cabinet and full Cabinet and gone into effect, the release of hostages can be carried out according to the planned outline. This will see 3 female hostages freed on Sunday. So now we wait and watch. Israeli officials, disagreements with Hamas are resolved. Deal is completed. First hostages expected on Monday. Sunday, Monday. Religious Zionism party has threatened to leave the government. They reiterated their threat to quit the government if the Israeli army does not return to fighting after the ceasefire deal's first stage. There's 3 phases, and we'll get into that. Besides longing for the return of our hostages, the religious Zionist faction strongly opposes the deal. The party said at the meeting on Thursday, the faction stands behind the demands of Minister Bezalel Smotrich from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to ensure Israel's return to the war, to destroy Hamas, and the return of all the hostages with a change in the ways of thinking regarding decisions and victory immediately. The statement stressed that is a condition for the party remaining in the government and in the coalition. So really hectic tensions in the government. divisive splits possibly coming. So now let's drill into this a bit further. The 33-member cabinet, 33 again, deliberated for more than 7 hours, into early Saturday before greenlighting the agreement, according to a statement from Benjamin Netanyahu's office. 33, we've already touched on that, and you can drill really deep into that. I'm not going to, because it'll become a really long video just on numbers, but it's really worth looking at. And then 7 hours as we stand before the final week of Daniel, which is 7 years, a week of years. And they deliberated for 7 hours. I find that really interesting. It's not coincidental, these things. You need to look into these things when they happen. They really do happen for a reason. The ceasefire and hostage deal is expected to come into effect on January 19. Trump takes power on 20. And include 3 phases. Each phase will last 42 days, according to the document. The first phase will see the release of 33 hostages held in Gaza, and 33 members in the cabinet deliberated 7 hours regarding the whole situation. But anyway, I digress. 3 phases, 42 days each. Now, in case you haven't checked, and maybe check after I'm finished talking, 42 days, exactly 6 weeks. So 3 times 6 is this deal. 6, 6, 6. Coincidence? Why exactly that number? Why not 40 days? Why not 30 days? Let's make it a month. 3 phases of 30 days each. No, 42 days, because it needs to be 6, 6, 6. The number 666 has been reiterated more and more and more all the time. And there's other 666 connections with this deal, dating all the way back to October 7. But I'm not going to get drawn into a video just on 666. But they are highlighting this number all the time. It is not a coincidence. According to the document, 3 female Israeli hostages will be released by Hamas on the first day and on the 7th day. Hamas is set to release 4 more. Following that, Hamas will release 3 Israeli detainees every 7 days, starting with women, according to their document. During the 6th week, Hamas will release all remaining detainees included in this stage, and in return, Israel will release the agreed upon number of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli prisons, based on the list provided by Hamas. The second phase of the agreement is expected to see a permanent cessation of military and hostile operations and the release of all remaining Israeli male detainees who are still alive, in exchange for a number of prisoners, again in Israeli prisons, and detainees in Israeli detention centers, and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip, which means you're leaving Hamas in the Strip uncontested, because they're still there. The third phase of the agreement will see the exchange of all bodies and remains of the dead. The third phase will also see the start of a 3 to 5 year reconstruction plan for Gaza, according to the document. Now, it's really a bad deal from where I'm standing. Horrible deal. I agree with Smotrich and them in their anger, and I can see huge government splits coming and all sorts of things down the line that is not good for Netanyahu. And then again, you are negotiating with terrorists who you can't trust. And they're already, even in light of all of this deal to come to an end of this conflict, publicly saying Israel is lost, Israel is lost, they're defeated, they didn't achieve any of their goals. They're trying to antagonize the Israelis. The same way that Hezbollah keeps trying to prod the Israelis, even though there's a ceasefire that's supposed to be happening. Then we look at the reaction from around the world, which is really interesting. The remarks follow negotiators reaching a phased deal to end the war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. 2025, and right before Trump's inauguration. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed a ceasefire deal in Gaza on Wednesday between Israel and Palestinian terrorists Hamas, stressing the priority now must be to ease the tremendous suffering caused by the conflict. The United Nations stands ready to support the implementation of this deal and scale up the delivery of sustained humanitarian relief to countless Palestinians who continue to suffer. What about all the Israelis that still haven't been able to return home in the north and in the south, and that are suffering as well, that have lost loved ones? No mention of them. United Nitwits stands with terror. President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen celebrated the news that Hamas had agreed to a hostage ceasefire deal. I warmly welcome the ceasefire and hostage release agreement in Gaza. Hostages will be reunited with their loved ones, and humanitarian aid can reach civilians in Gaza. This brings hope to an entire region where people have endured immense suffering so far for too long. Both parties must fully implement the agreement as a stepping stone towards lasting stability in the region and a diplomatic resolution of the conflict. They keep talking about humanitarian aid, but they won't admit the facts on the ground, that it is Hamas that is stealing the aid, selling the aid, causing the aid to have issues. Israel's allowing the aid in. German Foreign Secretary Annalena Baerbock on Wednesday said there is hope that hostages will finally be released and the deaths in Gaza will come to an end. Belgium's Prime Minister Alexander De Croo insisted, after too many months of conflict, we feel tremendous relief for the hostages, for their families, and for the people of Gaza. Let's hope the ceasefire will put an end to the fighting and mark the beginning of a sustained peace. Well, a 7-year peace would be good, don't you think? Belgium stands ready to help. After months of devastating bloodshed and countless lives lost, this is a long overdue news that Israeli and Palestinian people have been waiting for, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said in his statement. For the innocent Palestinians whose homes turned into a war zone overnight, and for many who have lost their lives, this ceasefire must allow for a huge surge in humanitarian aid, well, maybe let Hamas know that, which is desperately needed to end the suffering in Gaza. Dutch Party for Freedom founder and leader Geert Wilders posted a simple Wings of Freedom on his X page, complete with hearts and Israeli flags, as a response to the IDF's announcement of the name for the preparations for the return of the hostages. After 15 months of unjustifiable ordeal, immense relief for the Gazans, hope for the hostages and their families, tonight my thoughts go to Ofer and Ohad, French President Emmanuel Macron. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi welcomed on Wednesday the Gaza ceasefire. He stressed the importance of fast delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Wednesday he welcomes the Gaza ceasefire and hopes it will open the door for lasting peace and stability, peace and security, peace and safety for Palestinians and the region. Nothing about Israel or Israelis, because he can't stand them. In a post on X, Erdogan said Turkey will continue to stand with and support the people of Gaza with all its means. Whoop-de-doo, Turkey, you got a surprise coming from God. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani called for calm in the Gaza Strip between now and January 19 when the ceasefire deal takes effect. It's the only guy's comments who make sense. I mean, well done to him for those comments. Call for calm until this thing's done. Then the terror groups. Hamas acting Gaza chief Khalil al-Hayya said in a televised address on Wednesday, Israel has failed to achieve its goals in Gaza shortly after the ceasefire deal was announced. Just keep prodding Israel. He also vowed the Palestinian group would neither forgive nor forget. Yemen's Houthis saluted resistance groups in Gaza on Wednesday following the announcement of the ceasefire deal, saying that Israel's occupation of Palestine continues to be a threat to the stability and security of the region, according to a statement by the group's spokesperson on Telegram. They're all in for a really hectic surprise from God very, very soon. And yes, what destabilizes the region is the fact that they keep coming against Israel and keep trying to destroy it and remove its name forever. And they're going to learn the hard way when God steps in and sorts everybody out. When he calls all the nations at the end of the tribulation into the valley of decision and deals with them in judgment for what they have done. So that's all the details, the interesting coincidences with the 6s and everything that's happening with the 33, and the fact that this should start going down today. I am really happy that some of these hostages will finally be released from the hell they've been experiencing all these months, especially the woman, and that they might be freed today already, and that this process can begin. I am still horrified at the amount of Hamas terrorists that are going to be released back into the wild to start this whole thing all over again. And that Israel might, under pressure from American administration and others, bow down and allow this to happen, that Hamas will still have a foothold in Gaza. And going into that, the push for the two-state solution is going to come in powerfully. I mean, Norway just held their 3rd meeting on the two-state solution, and multiple people were there. We'll cover that in a different story. But that whole drive is now going to come at warp speed because they're out of time. They need to start wrapping this up to get to that 7-year peace treaty. So more than ever, pray for Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for the families of the hostages, pray for the hostages, pray for the innocents in Gaza and in Israel, and pray that all of them just have a divine appointment with Jesus Christ at a time such as this, while there is still time to avoid what is literally at the door. God bless. Keep looking up. Shalom.